Hey guys, it's Lord of the Pogs. Corpse Bride is a 2005 Tim Burton film about a young man who practices his wedding vows in the presence of a deceased young woman who then rises from the dead, assuming that he has married her, drawing inspirations from a 17th century Russian Jewish folktale. Today we're going to talk about a real-life corpse bride, which bears no relation and literal resemblance to the folktale or the Tim Burton film. This story is as weird as it is horrifying. Maria Elena Milagro de Hoyos was born in Key West, Florida in 1909 to Cuban immigrants Francisco Hoyos and Aurora Milagro. In the 1920s, she lived the normal life of a teenager, going to the movies, cooking with friends, and dancing at the social club La Brisa. At age 16, she was married to Luis Mesa, and by 1925, they were expecting their first child. Unfortunately, she miscarried the pregnancy and developed a lingering cough which went untreated because her family assumed it was depression. Luis left Elena and moved to Miami, although they remained married, and Elena was diagnosed with tuberculosis. On April 22, 1930, Elena was admitted to Marine Hospital under the care of radiologist Carl Tänzler. Carl Tänzler was an eccentric, conceited, and arrogant immigrant from Germany who flaunted a collection of wristwatches he claimed were gifts from Tsar Nicholas II. He claimed 9 university degrees and the title Count von Kassel. Tänzler claimed to be the descendant of Anna Constantia von Brockdorf, the Countess of Kassel, a noblewoman and mistress of Augustus the Strong, King of Poland, from whom he took this name. He claimed to have had visions of the Countess as a child, who revealed to him the face of his true love, who promised in these visions to be his bride. Upon meeting Elena when she was admitted to Marine Hospital, Tänzler recognized her as the woman from his visions and fell obsessively in love. He provided his services free of charge to cure her tuberculosis, an offer which her family was willing to accept because they were poor. Tänzler administered a primitive form of electroshock therapy by connecting electrodes to Elena's body and concocted potions, tonics, and medicinal wines. One of these was a special elixir which contained 70% distilled water, 20% gold shavings, fruit flavoring, and just short of a deadly dose of poison. He made countless marriage proposals to Elena and told her that when she was cured, they would fly away together in a wingless plane he kept on the hospital grounds, which he claimed was both amphibious and able to fly. When Elena's mother learned of this, she kicked Tänzler out of their home. There has never been any evidence that Elena reciprocated Tänzler's feelings whatsoever. She repeatedly told him that he was too old. He was 53, and Elena was barely 21, and that she didn't love him. Elena's sister Nana gave an interview to the Miami Herald.
She never loved him. She was only nice to him because my mother told her that she should be kind to those who were kind to her. She looked upon von Kassel as a grandfather. And when he proposed marriage, she always told him, "You are too old. Why, you are old enough to be my grandfather. What's more, I do not love you." He became so persistent that we asked him to stay away from the house.
Following his marriage proposals and the usage of what they called unorthodox devil treatments, Elena's family instructed Tänzler that he was no longer welcome to their home. They even moved to a different neighborhood, but an undeterred Carl Tänzler searched the streets relentlessly until he found the Hoyos' new home. Because Elena was deathly ill at this point, they agreed to allow Tänzler to continue his pro bono treatments, and Elena continued to reject his marriage proposals. Tänzler reportedly told Francisco that if there wasn't a wedding in the family soon, there would be a funeral. In the week before her death, Tänzler persuaded Elena to swallow double doses of his elixir, providing just enough of a dosage of poison to effect a slow death. As she died, she begged to stay dead, and asked her family to not take her to the hospital so that Tänzler wouldn't know she was dying until she was already pronounced dead. Maria Elena Milagro de Hoyos died on October 25, 1931, at the age of 22. Tänzler signed the cause on Elena's death certificate as expiration from a series of violent seizures clinically associated with dormant epilepsy. Following her death, Tänzler convinced Elena's family to rent her room to him for $20 a month, about $450 today, and built and interred Elena's body in an elaborate mausoleum, which even included electric lighting so he could enter the mausoleum and speak to Elena's corpse, and a two-way telephone so that he could exit the mausoleum if the smell became too great. Although Elena was still legally married to Luis Mesa at the time of her death, her married name was not engraved on her tombstone. Instead, C.T.D. Castle, meaning Countess Damsel Castle, was engraved below her name. Today, this engraving can be found at Fort Martello Museum in Key West, where the haunted doll Robert the Doll is also on display. Tänzler visited the mausoleum every night for 2 years to serenade Elena's body in Spanish. He stated that when he did this, Elena's spirit would sit with him and tell him to take her remains out of the grave and enshrine her corpse, which he eventually did. One night in April 1933, Tänzler removed Elena's body from the mausoleum, carted it through the cemetery on a toy wagon, and transported it to his home. He attached the bones with piano wire and fitted the face with glass eyes, fashioned a wig from Elena's hair as it fell out, which he had previously obtained from her mother, filled the corpse's abdominal and chest cavity with rags to keep the original form, and dressed Elena's remains in a wedding gown. Tänzler believed that he could reanimate Elena's corpse with ultraviolet ray treatment, but when his attempts at resuscitating her failed, he used copious amounts of perfume, disinfectants, and preserving agents to mask the odor and forestall the effects of the corpse's decomposition. As the skin decomposed, he replaced it with silk cloth soaked in wax and plaster of Paris. In October 1940, more than 7 years after Carl Tänzler exhumed Elena's body, he was seen dancing with her corpse in front of an open window. Elena's sister Florinda caught wind of rumors that he was sleeping with her sister's disinterred body, and she confronted Tänzler at his home. He made the statements,
"Elena is an angel, but not you. You never looked after her for the past 9 years. She has been under my care all these years. I have paid for all her expenses, not you. And I own that tomb and everything that is inside, not you."
Florinda notified the authorities, and Tänzler was arrested and detained on the charge of wantonly and maliciously destroying a grave and removing a body without authorization. When Carl Tänzler was arrested, he was found to be married with 2 young children, one of whom died from diphtheria during the time that Tänzler was looking for the Hoyos family's new residence after they moved. His wife, Doris Schaefer, claimed to have no knowledge of her husband's obsession with Elena's corpse. Medical degrees, licenses, and medals that Tänzler claimed to have bestowed upon him were all proven to be forged, and he was found to have no relation to the Countess of Kassel or any royal lineage at all. Despite this, Tänzler was found to be mentally competent by a psychiatric evaluation, and a hearing was held. Although the charges were dropped because the statute of limitations for the crime had passed, the judge decreed that Tänzler could no longer have possession of Elena's remains. Elena's body was never autopsied after it was retrieved from Tänzler's home, but a visual examination revealed evidence of necrophilia. A plastic tube had been inserted into the body, which allowed for intercourse, and semen was found in cotton balls which had been placed in the tube. The body was put on public display at Dean Lopez Funeral Home, where almost 7,000 people viewed it. It was then dismembered, placed in a metal box, and returned to Key West Cemetery, where it was buried in an unmarked grave in an undisclosed location to prevent further tampering. In 1944, Carl Tänzler blew up the mausoleum with a bomb and moved to Zephyrhills, Florida, where he died in 1952 at age 75. After his death, bottles of the elixir he administered to Elena as she was dying were found in his home. The story of Elena Hoyos has achieved legendary, almost mythological status, and told through the eyes of a man who portrayed himself as so in love he could not bear to live without her. It has traditionally been revered as a love story, with Elena paradoxically at the center of the story and left out of it. It's important to remember that this isn't a myth or a legend, it's a factual account of a man who pursued, poisoned, and exploited a young woman in life and in death. Maria Elena Milagro de Hoyos should be remembered in life as she was before death, and the trauma that her family suffered should never be forgotten. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share, and subscribe, and hit that little bell in the corner to get notifications on more videos like this one.